She knocked with full breasts after his wife passed. The rancher sat alone with a hungry baby. Stone Ridge, Montana, winter of 1876. The wind screamed across the high plains, tearing through barbed wire fences and slamming into the wooden frame of the ranch house like a thing possessed. Snow blew sideways in thin, sharp blades, slicing the air like razors. It was the kind of cold that cracked lips and cut through wool as if it were paper. Inside the cabin, a baby cried. Owen Hayes stood hunched over a small cradle, eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights, hands trembling from exhaustion. His thick flannel shirt clung to him, damp with sweat despite the chill. In his arms, baby Lily screamed, her tiny fists clenched, her face red and scrunched with hunger and frustration. "Come on, sweetheart," he muttered, trying once again to guide the bottle of warmed goat's milk to her lips. "Please, just a little." She turned her head and wailed louder. The bottle slipped from his fingers and rolled across the rough-hewn floorboards. Owen swore under his breath and bent to pick it up. His back ached. His arms shook. It had been a month since Annabelle died. 1 month since the fever came in the dead of night and stole her before sunrise. Lily had been only 2 months old then. Now she was 3 and starving. She wouldn't drink the goat's milk. No matter how warm he made it, no matter how he sweetened it with honey or molasses, her tiny body refused. She turned away, cried until her voice grew hoarse, until her little chest heaved with exhaustion. Owen paced the floor with her, bouncing her awkwardly, whispering soft nonsense, trying not to cry himself. His boots thudded heavily against the wood. His hair was unwashed, his beard overgrown. He hadn't slept through a single night since the funeral. He barely ate. He barely thought, only fed the fire, changed diapers, rocked, shushed, pleaded. And still, Lily cried. Last week, he'd saddled his horse and ridden to every home within 10 miles. Anyone with a new baby? Anyone nursing? The answers were always the same. Soft voices, gentle refusals, shaking heads. No one's had a child in months. I'm sorry, son. His last stop was the church. Even the pastor looked at him with pity. There's nothing I can do but pray. So Owen returned home and wrote a sign in shaky, blocky letters. Need help. Infant hungry. Breast milk needed. He nailed it to the front gate. The wind tore at it, threatening to rip it free. He hammered it again and again. For days passed. No one came. That night, a storm rolled in, wet, furious, relentless. The fire in the hearth sputtered, casting flickering shadows across the room. Outside, snow thickened, tapping the windows like bony fingers, and Lily screamed. Owen dropped into the rocking chair by the fire, pulling her close to his chest. His big arms wrapped around her small, writhing body. He kissed her damp forehead. I'm trying, he whispered, voice breaking. I don't know what else to do, she wailed louder, her cries raw and hoarse from hours of hunger. He rocked harder, faster. I used to be the strongest man on this ranch, he muttered. Now I'm just a father with shaking hands who can't feed his own child. His eyes burned, his throat closed. The storm outside howled louder. Inside, Lily's cries didn't stop, and Owen Hayes, rancher, widower, once the toughest man in Stone Ridge, held his starving daughter in the dark and felt himself break. Then, through the howl of the storm, came a sound. Knock, knock. He flinched. The sound startled both him and Lily. Her wail paused for a breath, then rose again, even more desperate. Another knock. Urgent. Shaky. Owen rose, arms tightening around his daughter, and cracked the door. Wind slapped him in the face. A woman stood there soaked to the skin, clutching a small cloth bag. Her cloak hung heavy with rain. Wet strands of dark hair clung to her cheeks. Please, she said, voice barely audible over the storm. I just need a place to stay for the night. He stepped aside without a word. She entered slowly, dripping water onto the floorboards. Then it happened. Lily screamed again, sharp, high-pitched, starving. The woman stopped cold. Her eyes locked on the infant. Her breath caught. Her hand flew to her chest, pressing over the fabric of her blouse, where dark, wet stains had begun to spread. She took a step back, eyes wide. Tears filled them instantly. She began, then faltered. 5 months ago, I gave birth to a boy. He died 2 months later. She bit her lip, trembling. Since then, my body, it doesn't understand. He's gone, but the milk still comes. Every day, I throw it away. Every drop hurts. Owen didn't speak. His throat was too tight. She's hungry. The woman whispered, let me help. Please. He hesitated for only a second, his throat tight. Please, he whispered, the word a raw prayer. Please, help her. He nodded, a desperate, broken gesture. She set down her bag. Her hand shook as she approached. With delicate, practiced motions, she unfastened the front of her blouse, her breath ragged. Owen held Lily toward her. The woman took the baby into her arms like she was made to do so. Her lips trembled. Her eyes never left Lily's face. The baby rooted instinctively, whimpering, then latched. A loud suck, then another. Her tiny body shuddered with relief. The woman gasped. Tears streamed down her cheeks as milk flowed. Her shoulders heaved with silent sobs. Lily nursed like a starving creature, each swallow audible in the hush of the storm. The room filled with sound, the rhythmic sucking, the baby's soft sighs, the woman's gentle murmurs. It's okay. Eat, little one. I've got you. Owen watched, his heart clenched. He had tried everything. Every bottle, every trick, every prayer. Nothing had worked. But now, in the arms of this soaked, trembling stranger, his daughter found peace. The woman closed her eyes. A single word escaped her lips. Thank you. Lily suckled slower now, content. Her fists loosened, her cries faded into sleep. Owen stepped forward and gently draped a blanket around both of them. She opened her eyes, looked up. What's your name? He asked softly. Martha, she said. Martha Reed. I'm Owen. And that's Lily. Martha looked down at the baby, now resting quietly against her chest. She kissed her forehead. The storm still raged outside. But inside the cabin, something warm had taken root. A thread, a bond, between a grieving woman, a desperate father, and a child who had finally found what she needed most. Milk, warmth, and a heartbeat to rest against. The storm passed. Martha stayed. Not by any formal invitation or spoken agreement, but by the undeniable pull of necessity. Lily needed feeding every few hours. Owen, silent and sleep-starved, never asked her to go. And Martha, with her satchel tucked beneath the cot and her shawl drying by the fire, simply remained. She rose with the baby before dawn, fed her while the stars still clung to the sky, and laid her gently back to sleep before the first orange light cracked across the plain. Her hands moved with natural grace, wiping Lily's chin, humming under her breath, folding small clothes Owen had never managed to wash properly. Owen watched quietly. That first morning, he hammered together a second bed frame, rough pine, nothing fancy, but sturdy. When Martha stepped into the cabin from the well with a bucket of water, she saw it already set up in the corner, a wool blanket folded neatly on top. She blinked, surprised. You didn't have to. Owen rubbed the back of his neck. Ain't much, but it's yours while you're here. She smiled softly. It's more than I had last night. Later, he left a small tin jar by her wash basin. Inside, thick yellow bear fat he'd rendered himself from the winter hunt. A note scrolled in blocky letters, for your hands. She didn't speak of it, but her fingers traced the jar before she opened it. In return, Martha cooked simple food. Beans simmered with a strip of pork, wild onions boiled into broth. She swept the floor each morning and hung Lily's washed clothes over the stove to dry. At night, after the baby nursed and fell asleep, curled into her shoulder, Martha sometimes sat by the hearth, wiping tears from her face while pretending to sew. Owen saw them, but he never asked. One evening, As the wind howled low outside and snow danced like ash in the dark, Martha spoke first. She was beautiful, Owen said unprompted. My wife Martha didn't turn. He stared into the fire. Her name was Annabelle. She liked to sing when she churned butter. Drove me crazy some days, he smiled faintly, crookedly. She bled too much after Lily was born. We thought she'd be fine. She wasn't. The fire popped. Martha nodded slowly. My son was named Daniel. He got sick, a fever. Nothing helped, she looked down at her hands. I still dream about him. Not his death, just him, sleeping or smiling. Lily stirred in her arms, then settled again. Owen watched the baby for a moment, then stood and added more wood to the fire. When he turned, Martha had unbuttoned her bodice to nurse Lily, and instinctively Owen turned away. He busied himself with the flames, saying nothing. Martha noticed. She looked at the strong lines of his back, the way his shoulders carried weight. Thank you, she whispered. He didn't respond, but his hand stilled on the fire poker. Word of Martha's presence didn't take long to reach the town. Stone Ridge was small, and nothing stayed quiet for long. She just showed up alone. From where? Strange, don't you think? 2 months a widow and now living with a man. She's feeding his child for God's sake. And what does she want for it? Martha heard none of this directly, but she felt it. The stares when she passed through town for cloth or oats, the sudden silences in conversation. One afternoon, she returned to the cabin with a bundle of soap root and found a parcel of mail left on the fence. No one willing to knock. Inside the cabin, though, the air was warmer. Lily had started smiling in her sleep. Owen had repaired the window latch to keep out the wind. Martha placed fresh pine sprigs near the bed to make the room smell clean. They said little, but the silence between them changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was shared. A quiet understanding rooted itself in the smallest things. How Owen always left water warming for her in the mornings. How Martha folded his shirts even when he didn't ask. How when Lily cried at night, Martha rose first, but Owen always followed just behind, ready with a blanket or candle. They never spoke of staying, but neither spoke of leaving, and slowly, without permission or plan, they began to build something, not from promises or grand designs, but from small, necessary kindnesses. The snow fell heavier that week, blanketing Stone Ridge in a quiet hush. But no snow could bury the voices that began to whisper. At first, Owen didn't notice. He was too busy chopping wood, tending the barn, watching over Lily with a heart too tired to listen to gossip. But when he rode into town one afternoon to buy salt and lamp oil, he felt it. At Miller's General Store, heads turned as he walked in. Conversations halted. Then someone near the barrels of dried beans muttered just loud enough, "Must be nice having a woman under your roof for more than just cooking." Owen ignored it. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He paid for the salt and turned to go. Another voice, unmistakably familiar, cut through the silence. "Some folks say she's trading milk for a bed," said Burl Stanton, a ranch hand with more bark than work. Shame. Owen Hayes used to be a man of pride. Owen didn't flinch. But as he stepped outside into the snow, his face was carved from stone. Back at the homestead, Martha was hanging Lily's blankets near the fire. The child had just nursed and slept peacefully in a basket lined with wool. Martha hummed softly, her voice thin and wavering. She didn't see the shadow at the window, didn't hear the approaching wagon until the wheels creaked past. But she heard the voices. Ain't natural. A woman showing up out of nowhere. Still flowing milk, but no child to feed. Either she's mad or she's planning something. She's just staying there like a wife without a name. The voices faded, but the wound was cut. Martha sat down hard on the edge of the hearth. Her arms trembled. She stared into the fire. Her hands moved to her chest, warm, still full, the reminder of what she had lost. She rose and walked to Lily's basket. The baby stirred, blinked, then began to fuss. "I've got you," Martha whispered, lifting her into her arms. You're safe, little one. I won't let them take you. Her voice cracked. That night, as wind clawed against the walls and snow tapped the shutters like ghostly fingers, Martha sat awake, rocking Lily. Her eyes were hollow with sleeplessness, her breath unsteady. She had not told Owen what she heard. She could not. In the early hours, just before dawn, Martha stood. She dressed quickly, wrapped Lily tightly in her shawl, and slipped out into the storm. The cold was bitter, slicing through cloth and skin. Martha stumbled through the snow, holding Lily close, her steps uneven, disoriented. She had no destination. Only the haunting thought, if I stay, they'll take her from me. They'll make me leave. I'll lose her, too. Lily began to cry louder, desperate. Hush! Hush! Martha sobbed, her own voice trembling. Please, baby, please. The child's wails pierced the silence, her breath catching from the cold. Martha dropped to her knees near a thicket of trees, shielding the baby with her body. Her hair soaked through. Her shoulders shook. Her arms wrapped tighter. Too tight. Her mind blurred. They don't know. They don't understand. You're mine. You're all I have left. She rocked forward and back, whispering nonsense, tears freezing on her cheeks. The wind howled. The baby cried, and no one knew she was gone. Not yet. Inside the cabin, the fire had burned low. The silence was unnatural. Owen stirred from restless sleep on the floor beside Lily's empty cradle. His hand reached for her instinctively and found only cold wool. Then the silence hit him. No cooing, no soft breath, no Martha. His eyes snapped open. Lily, his voice cracked. He bolted upright, heart pounding. He scanned the cabin. The blanket was gone. Martha's shawl, too. The front door stood slightly ajar, snow curling in. A sick fear gripped his chest. He didn't stop to dress properly. He threw on his coat, yanked on his boots, and saddled his mare with shaking hands. Please, Lord, he muttered, teeth clenched. Let me find them. The storm had swallowed most of the world in white, but he forced the horse into a gallop, scanning the snow for any trace, footprints, fabric, movement. They couldn't have gone far. Minutes felt like hours. Then, through the swirl of snow, he saw it. An outline against the side of the old hay barn, long abandoned since the roof caved 2 winters ago. He slid off the horse before it fully stopped and ran. She was there, Martha, curled in the crook of the wall, her back pressed against splintered wood, shawl wrapped around a trembling bundle. Her hair clung to her face. Her lips were blue. She rocked forward and back, murmuring words he couldn't hear over the wind. Martha, he called. She didn't respond. Martha, it's me. She looked up, wild-eyed, and clutched the baby tighter. Lily's cries had turned into hoarse, broken sobs. No one's taking her, Martha whispered, eyes wide. They'll say I don't belong. They'll send me away. Owen knelt slowly, careful not to startle her. I'm not here to take her, he said softly. I'm here to bring you both home. Tears streaked down Martha's cheeks. She's not mine, but she feels like mine, and I couldn't lose her. Not again. You haven't, Owen said, voice thick with emotion. You saved her, Martha. He shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. Then he gently cradled both her and the baby into his arms. Her body was stiff, trembling, but she didn't resist. You're not the woman who took something from me, he whispered. You're the one giving her life. The words hung in the cold air. Martha gasped and then broke. Her shoulders shook as a sob escaped, raw and guttural. She buried her face into his chest, clutching his coat, clutching Lily between them. I didn't mean to run, she cried. I was so scared. They say I don't belong. That I'm nothing. You're not nothing, Owen said, resting his cheek against her damp hair. You're the reason my daughter's still breathing. The baby whimpered softly, then fell into exhausted sleep against Martha's chest. Owen held them both as the wind roared around the barn. He didn't care how long it took. He only knew one thing now. He wasn't losing them. Not tonight. Not ever. Snow still clung to their coats as Owen carried Martha and Lily through the cabin door. The warmth inside was faint, a flickering fire half smothered in ash, but it was home. He eased Martha onto the edge of the bed, gently peeled the baby from her arms, and cradled Lily close for a moment. The little girl stirred weakly, then nestled her cheek into his chest with a sigh that pierced straight through him. He crossed the room and laid her into her cradle, but not the old one. Beside the bed stood a new cradle, smooth pine wood, polished by hours of his rough hands. Each corner sanded soft, edges rounded with care. It had taken 3 nights of sleepless work by candlelight. He'd planned to give it to Lily for her 4th month, but now he realized it belonged to both of them. Martha looked at it, eyes wide, lips trembling. "You built that?" Owen nodded. "For her?" "For you." Martha lowered her gaze. Her hands trembled slightly in her lap. The silence between them was deep, but not cold. He walked back to the hearth, added a fresh log, and stoked the fire until the flames licked up strong and golden. Then he turned and crossed the room in 2 quiet steps. He crouched in front of her, voice low. "You don't have to leave." Martha looked up, startled. "You don't owe me anything," he continued, eyes steady. "But I'd be a damn fool to let you walk away without saying this." He reached for her hand, rough fingers brushing hers. "Stay." Martha's lips parted, breath caught in her throat. "Stay and be her mother. Not just for tonight. Not just until spring. For good." Martha shook her head slowly, blinking back tears. "Owen, I'm not whole. I lost my baby. I still wake up thinking I hear him cry." Her voice cracked. "I look at Lily and sometimes I see him. Then I remember he's gone and I'm terrified. Terrified I'll lose her too." Owen tightened his grip on her hand. "That fear. I live with it every day. Every damn minute since Annabelle passed." His voice softened. "But Lily, she's here because of you. She sleeps now because of you." Martha looked toward the cradle. Lily was curled like a kitten, one fist by her cheek, her breath even. "You didn't steal her," Owen said. "You saved her." Tears slid down Martha's cheeks. She didn't speak. "Whatever it is you're carrying," he whispered, "you don't have to carry it alone." Not anymore. The wind hurled outside, but inside the fire crackled steady and warm. Martha reached out with trembling hands and cupped his cheek. Her eyes searched his, full of grief, longing, and something softer. "Hope. You really want me to stay?" Owen's voice was firm. "I need you to stay. But more than that, Lily needs you." Martha's breath hitched. "I don't know if I'm strong enough." "You're already the strongest woman I know," Owen said, brushing a thumb across her knuckles. "You've already done the hardest thing in the world, given love when you had every reason to shut it away." Martha leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll stay." Owen exhaled, shoulders sagging like something heavy had finally slipped free. He stood, gently pulled the quilt over her shoulders, then sat beside her on the edge of the bed. Martha turned her face toward the cradle where their girl slept, full, warm, safe. And for the first time in a long, long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning. The wind had shifted by noon, sharp and dry, curling dust off the ridge behind Owen's ranch. Martha sensed something was wrong long before the first boot touched the porch. Owen stood outside, sleeves rolled up, splitting kindling with a steady rhythm. Lily slept inside, warm against Martha's chest. Then came the hooves, 3 horses. Men with hard faces. One of them, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, dismounted first. He didn't bother with pleasantries. "Haze," he said, spitting into the dirt. "Time's up." Owen didn't pause his movement. Another log split clean. "I don't reckon I know what you mean." "Oh, I think you do," another man said, stepping forward. He wore a town deputy's badge, but Owen knew better. He hadn't worked a lawful day in months. That loan your brother took before he ran off. It's on your land. That makes it your debt. Owen stood upright, wiped his hands on his trousers. My brother's choices don't bind mine. You know that, but the land does, the third man sneered. And we've got papers to say so. Martha peered through the window, heart pounding. She clutched Lily tighter, breath shallow. We ain't here for talk, the scar-faced man said. You pay up or we take what's owed. Owen glanced at the barn, then at the cabin, Martha's shadow just behind the curtain. His jaw tightened. You're not taking anything, he said, voice low. Not from this house. Not from that child. A laugh snorted from the deputy. You going to stop us? One man with a tired horse and a baby on your porch. Owen stepped forward, calm and deliberate. You think a man won't fight harder when he's protecting the only thing he's got left? The scarred man reached for his belt. That a threat? No, Owen said, eye steady. It's a promise. From the corner of the porch, Owen grabbed something wrapped in oilcloth. He pulled the fabric free, a hunting rifle, well kept, the stock worn from years of use. Inside, Martha gasped. She stepped back from the window, whispering, please don't let it happen. The standoff held, 3 against 1. But Owen didn't shake. Then came the sound. A single shot in the distance. Owen didn't raise his rifle. He didn't need to. I've got no quarrel with men doing honest work, he said. But this is stealing. And if you cross that line, you'll answer to more than just me. The deputy hesitated. His eyes flicked toward the horizon where a few townsfolk had gathered, drawn by the noise. One of them, the widow Hemlock, whispered to her grandson. That's the Hayes Ranch. The baby lives there now. And the milkwoman. The scarred man spat again. You'll regret this maybe, Owen said. But I won't regret protecting my family. There it was. Family. He meant it. Martha, watching from the shadows, felt her knees go weak. The men shifted. The weight of witnesses pulled at their confidence. This ain't over, the deputy growled, but they turned, mounted their horses, and rode off in a swirl of dust and cold. Only then did Owen lower the rifle. Inside, Martha sat on the floor, tears running freely now, Lily asleep in her arms. Owen stepped through the door, dirt on his boots, chest heaving. Not from fear, but from something harder. Relief. She stood slowly. You're hurt? He shook his head. Not today. Her voice broke. You called us your family. Owen looked at her, voice quiet. Because you are outside. A boy from town ran down the road shouting. He stood them off. One man protected the whole place. And just like that, the town began to see Owen Hayes and the woman with milk-stained sleeves not as strange charity cases, but as something more, survivors, protectors, a family. 3 years passed since the night Martha knocked on Owen's door. The winters came and went, painting the prairie in frost and fire, but the little cabin on the edge of Stone Ridge stayed warm. Not just from logs in the hearth, but from the quiet, enduring fire of a new family. Lily was 3 now. Her laughter rang through the garden like a bell, her small boots kicking up dust as she chased butterflies past rows of late summer squash. Her dark curls bounced with every step, her cheeks red from sun and joy. Martha stood by the fence, one hand resting on the gentle swell of her belly. She was 7 months along, and her face glowed not just from motherhood, but from a peace earned and tender. She watched Lily with a smile that held both joy and ache, the memory of what was lost and what was found. Owen joined her from the barn, a spade in one hand, a small sapling in the other, a white fir, its roots wrapped in damp burlap. You ready? He asked. Martha nodded. Let's plant it near the fence where she can see it grow. Owen knelt by the earth. Lily bounded over. What is it, Papa? She asked, eyes wide. It's a white fir, sweet pea, Owen said, brushing her curls back. It'll grow tall and strong, just like you. Can I help? He handed her a little trowel. Start digging. She plunged it into the dirt with glee. Martha laughed softly. Together, the 3 of them worked the soil until the hole was just right. Owen lowered the sapling in place, packed the earth around it. Martha stood beside him, her fingers brushing his. "What made you choose this tree?" Owen looked at her, then at the sky, already streaked with pink from the setting sun. "White fir is stubborn," he said. "Tough against the wind. Holds its green through snow and storm. It survives." Martha nodded slowly. Owen turned toward her. "So do we?" He reached for her hand, his voice quieter now, meant only for her. "If the snow keeps falling and this tree keeps standing, then so does this. Us. This family." Martha's eyes welled. "That's our promise." He smiled. "That's our promise." Lily clapped. "It's our tree." "It is," Owen said, lifting her into his arms. "Yours, your mama's, and mine." They stood there a while, the wind rustling through the grass, the horizon gold with the last light of day. Later, as the sun dipped low, Owen sat on the porch rail. Lily curled up at his feet, her head resting against his boot. Martha leaned in the doorway, one hand at her back, the other on her belly, watching her family as if she could store the sight in her bones. Owen looked up at her and held out his hand. She took it, their fingers lacing easily, as if they'd always belonged together. He looked down at Lily. "Did you know when you were little, you didn't want any milk but hers?" Lily giggled. "Mama milk." "The best kind," Martha added, kneeling to kiss her daughter's forehead. The stars began to peek out one by one. The prairie lay quiet. The fir tree stood by the fence, its needles catching the moonlight. And inside the cabin, etched into the wooden beam above the hearth, were three names: Lily Hayes, Martha Reed, Owen Hayes. A father, a mother, and a child, forged not by blood, but by choice. Not by debt, but by grace. They had chosen one another in the heart of the storm, and in the quiet that followed, they had chosen to live.